The Looking Glass. Hi, my name is Preston. I was born in Las Vegas, Nevada. I never knew my real father, but I did have a fatherly figure in my life. His name was Mike, my mom's boyfriend, who later became a second husband. Mike had 3 children of his own, who came to consider my blood siblings. Their names were Gilbert, who was 14, Christiana, who was 12, and Sarah, who was 11. We lived in Las Vegas for the first 4 years of my life, and after that, moved to Michigan. I don't recall much, but what I do recall is that somewhere along the lines, both my stepsisters had developed isotrophobia, the fear of mirrors. And that's because of this newly developed fear. We had to get rid of every mirror in the house. Both my sisters screamed at the sight of their own reflection. God, how could I ever forget that? Well, after we moved to Michigan, my mother and stepfather only kept one mirror in the entire house. It was put in the bedroom upstairs, far away from any of our bedrooms, which were all downstairs. I was still too young to understand exactly why there were no mirrors in the house. I mean, I realized my sisters were scared of them, yes, but I was too young to comprehend that this was a psychological fear, and I had often questions to myself, just what was so scary about the looking glass, as I called it when I was young. As time passed on, I no longer paid attention to the fact that my sisters were afraid of mirrors, or questioned why anymore. I went on to cartoons and video games, as most young children do. Often nothing was mentioned of my sisters' fears anymore. I just put it into the back of my young, feeble mind. Life went on for me as a normal kid from then on. I bonded with my brother over video games, and had often even humored my sisters by letting them use me as a human dress-up doll. By the time I was 6, I was as close to my siblings as could be. Every chance I got, I would spend it with them, playing video games or watching WWE wrestling. It wasn't too much longer before we all noticed my stepfather was acting strange. He would willingly work more hours and take double shifts. Anything really to stay out of the house. Or maybe away from my mother. Mike even started sleeping on the couch, instead of in his room with Mom. I became scared, and thought something bad was going on between my mother and stepfather. I didn't want to lose my siblings. Gilbert and my 2 sisters then began to attempt to include both Mom and Dad in our activities and attempt to keep Dad home and keep them both together. For a while, this seemed to be working. Mike went from taking extra shifts to staying home more often, but still slept on the couch. One night, I woke up thirsty for a glass of water, and as I got to the kitchen, I noticed the lights were already on. I heard voices from behind the door. I put my ear to the door and overheard a conversation between my mother and stepdad. My mother was talking about how she gets lonely at night because of Mike sleeping downstairs, to which Mike replied, "I'm sorry, but seeing that terrified me too much to even step a foot in that room again." The next day, I told my brother and 2 sisters what I've overheard. Mom and Mike talking about and what he said. Gilbert got frantic, thinking that what Mike said meant that might be something dangerous in the room, which would eventually mean harm to Mom, or even one of us. Christiana told him to keep calm, assuring him that she would talk to Mom about it. Late in the night, while Mike was working, Mom sat Gilbert, Sarah, Christiana and I down, and told us that Mike had isotrophobia as well. Gilbert, upon hearing this, was relieved of his fear and there being something dangerous in the house. I might have been young, but I remember that during the talk, my mother seemed worried or uneasy. But I had this sense of relief, and wasn't too worried about it at the time. Mom and Mike both had the next night of work, and left Gilbert in the charge of watching us. Gilbert was talking about how he had recalled something I quoted Mike on. Seeing that terrified me too much to even step foot in that room again. Gilbert had been thinking on this, and was rather uneasy over it. Gilbert had then decided to go up to Mom and Mike's room and take a look around. Christiana immediately stopped him from going upstairs, urging him that it was a seriously bad idea, because Mom wouldn't appreciate that. But there was something more to it. I knew my sister well enough to know when she was hiding something or holding something back. Later that night, I was awoken by a loud bang noise. I heard yelling coming from outside my door, so I put my ear to the door and tried to listen. Gilbert and Christiana were arguing. So you knew about this all this time? How could you keep something like that from your family, Christiana? That puts all of us in danger, Gilbert was shouting. I concluded Mom and Mike were still at work, or they would have stopped this. Just then I heard Sarah's voice. What's with all the yelling? She asked. Gilbert snapped. Did you know what's upstairs too? How could you keep it a secret? What about Preston? What if he finds that, huh? Christiana interrupted. Well, I warned you not to go up there, Gilbert. The next morning, Gilbert went on a walk and I went with him. I asked Gilbert what he was yelling about last night, and he had smiled, assuring me that he didn't know what I was talking about, and I must have been dreaming. After Gilbert and I got back from our walk, he just went straight to his room, and didn't say a word to anyone for the rest of the day. I asked Christiana the same thing I had asked Gilbert on our walk, and she just looked at me and told me to never go upstairs, no matter what happened, and went into her room. I then turned to Sarah, but got no answers from her at all, just a black stare, and off to her room. After that night, all of my siblings became much more distant from each other. We no longer played video games together or watched wrestling. To make matters worse, Mom and Mike started fighting all the time. Things continued to go downhill over the next 2 years. Most said between my siblings and I. Simple mannerisms such as thank you, or greetings such as good morning or good night. Nothing more. My family was falling apart, and I didn't know why or what to do. After all, what could a little 8-year-old do, especially without knowing what was happening? All I remember feeling at this point was fear of losing my siblings forever. After all, it had already seemed like our bond was no longer there. One day, my fears became reality. My mom and Mike got into a huge argument, which eventually turned physical. The neighbors called the police, and both Mom and Mike had to spend the night in jail. So I stayed at my aunt's for the night. The next day, my mom picked me up and explained that her and Mike had split up, and we had to go to Mike's house to pack our things because we were moving into Grandma's house. I started to tear up. In the end, my fear became reality. I lost my siblings, not only physically, but emotionally too. I remember crying so much that day. When we got to Mike's, the door was wide open, and his car was in the driveway. So it appeared he was home. Mom went inside to pack, and I followed because I wanted to give my siblings one last goodbye hug. But when we got there, neither Mike, Gilbert, Christiana or Sarah were anywhere to be found. After searching every room downstairs and finding nobody, I heard my mum scream upstairs. I recalled what Christiana told me and stayed downstairs waiting. Not even 3 seconds later, my mum let out a blood-gurgling scream and I hear crying. I rushed upstairs to see what was wrong. My mom was sitting on her bed, just staring at the mirror, crying. I climbed on the bed with her and looked in the mirror. Nothing could prepare me what I saw that day. As I looked into the mirror, on the mirror was written in blood, "Never look at your own reflection clearly in a mirror. We love you. Mike, Gilbert, Christiana, Sarah." But it was written as if someone's reflection had written it. And oh, the horror. When I saw in the mirror something that wasn't really there. The corpses of Mike, Gilbert, Christiana, and Sarah. I saw the rotting corpses laying on the bed through the mirror.